And we'll be all right if the Lord he be our strength. We'll be
We are here talking with Christian business owners in the Acadiana area, and we've got Emily Nealy with us. Emily, you do real estate, right?
Yes.
How long have you been doing that?
9 years.
9 years.
2014.
That's cool.
Long time.
What made you get into it?
Well, I had a friend who was in it, and, well, she was thinking about joining it or signing up, and she needed some coercion. So I said, if you will do it, then I will do it. And so we did it together, and that's how it started.
That's cool. How many, what did you say, like houses, people have you helped out so far?
Oh, over 100. Like,
really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know the number, but going on 150, which is not a lot for somebody who's been doing it for 9 years, because I've done it.
That sounds like a lot to me.
Yeah, but I've done it at my own pace, and I've done it, at different stages of my life and different times of calling, I guess, and different phases.
Because you're also a mom.
Oh yeah.
You got 3 kids, 4 kids.
Sorry. We got the old one who's here sometimes and not there. So we have 4 kids.
Yeah.
And when they were little, I was, studying for the real estate exam at night and took my test and, just pacing myself and trying to do a good job with all the plates I was spinning, which means something's got to give. You can't be a full-fledged real estate, selling sunset agent kind of thing whenever you've got, a bunch of little kids at home and a husband who has a full-time job that is pretty demanding too.
Right.
He's a pastor, for people who don't know. The Brandon Nealy. So there's just different phases of life, and this was a good fit for that.
Yeah.
I could rev it up or
turn it off.
Which I did.
Is it easy?
About a year and a half ago, I turned it off.
Turn it off? Do you mean like you turned your license off? Or
No, I didn't. I didn't turn my license off, but we had some family tragedy, and I needed a sabbatical. I needed to step back and just take time with my family. And I took about a year off where I just did the bare minimum. I sold a couple of houses that were kind of just in the works.
Yeah.
Didn't really push things. Kind of just, let the plate spin a little bit. And so that was a good thing to be able to do.
And you find that, like, being a mom with kids, this is something that fits well with that?
Oh, yeah.
Based on the pace and based on...
It would be very difficult if I had to be the breadwinner, to be the one who it all depended on. I would not like that demand. It is if you're going to do it and gin up and really be a producer enough to be able to be the breadwinner, it would be consuming in a big way. I think for some people, yes, and some people no. But for our family and my situation, that wasn't on me.
Yeah.
Mine was just a little bonus, for our family.
Right.
When I was doing it like that. Things have changed a little bit. I'm on my own. I'm not in a partnership. And I mean, with the business side of it.
Right.
And I'm able to put a little bit more into it and focus on it and build it a little more than I have in the past. But my kids are grown. Like, they're not fully grown, but they're taller. They're taller than me, and they don't demand the constant, need that they did when they were younger. And
so you got more time, more flexibility.
Yeah. So it has grown with me as my life situation has grown.
Yeah. And plus, when the kids go to school, you have more time to do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some people who, have little kids and they're in this industry and they lean on daycares and that kind of thing. But that's something we decided not to do as a family. So if you are, leaning on daycare or, family members who will take care of kids, but this is a evening job, this is a weekend job, you can put boundaries, but there's going to be exceptions that you're going to have to make for people because, when they get off of work, they need to go see a house or whatever. So, but I do have boundaries. There are some things that I tell people when I first work with them, these are my hours. These are my hours that I'm here for you anytime. Anytime after that, we have to make a special appointment. We have to, this is going to be an exception because I like you.
Right.
You know, and I don't do Sundays.
Amen.
I used to when I first started. I didn't think that I didn't need to, but I don't. and I, you know, very limited. Sometimes I'll have a contract come in or an offer come in, and you know, you'll have to address some things maybe or take a phone call. But you know, beating the bushes on Sunday or open houses on Sunday or you know, that's no thank you.
Right.
I'm not there for that.
Right.
You know, so
if you were if somebody was thinking about getting into the real estate field, what would be your advice to them?
Call me and let's talk. And it is a great and rewarding industry.
Yeah.
But there are some things you need to consider to count the cost. The average, like for a new agent to make it past a year or 2 years, it's very rare. And then,
really?
Oh yeah. And
huge turnover.
A 3-year agent is kind of like, if you've made it 3 years, you're probably going to do okay.
Wow.
Yeah, lots of turnover.
Okay.
So, and it's fairly easy entry. It's and I found I'm not going to say because people fail the test all the time, but I thought it was a pretty easy test.
Yeah, I got you.
But I mean, the entry level is not that hard. You know, it's pretty easy to get into.
Yeah.
And but the stick it to itness is harder, and making it through dry spells, and you know, it's 100% commission.
Yeah.
So
and when interest rates are high, you probably see effects of that.
There's ups and downs, you know, and having been in it 9 years, I've seen a few different markets, and that's, you know, there's been some dry times and there's been some, you know,
right,
much more busy, fruitful times. So
right.
Yeah.
That's cool. So do you work with a agency?
Yes, I work with EXP Realty.
Okay.
And they basically hold my license, but I do my own business. Like, I'm not on a team or anything like that. It's
You're an
just me.
independent.
Independent.
Yeah. Now, what made you want to do that rather than be on a team?
I've been partnered with other agents before. I was partnered with Sharon Steen first. She was when we were with Vanita and Romero. And then I was partnered with my sister-in-law, Rachel Cook. We had the Nealy Cook group, and that was fun. I like having a friend.
Yeah.
But I'm now alone, or solo, not alone, all alone.
I'm alone.
All by myself. So I'm a solo agent now, but I do have an assistant or a transaction coordinator who kind of handles the uploading of things. I've just learned how to handle it differently.
Yeah.
And I'm implementing some different systems and things that are really working well for me.
That's awesome.
So I'm enjoying this. So
Yeah.
it's a different way to do business, but I'm liking it. And on teams and partnerships, you know, you're already splitting your commission with your broker, and then you wind up splitting your commission with your partner or your team. It takes a lot out of it.
And then there's
so it takes the wind out of your sails in a big way. You know?
There's a thing called commission capping or something like that. Is that a thing too?
Yes.
So what is that?
So that means
capping?
that I made enough sales and I paid EXP enough money that I don't have to pay them that much anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So up to a certain point, you have to send them a percentage.
Yeah.
And then after that,
once you've paid into that a certain amount, then you don't have to give them anymore.
Oh, nice. And then everything's just going straight to you from that point forward, or your staff.
Mostly everything. There's like a small monthly fee that is negligible. So.
Oh, okay.
But most everything comes back to me after you camp.
That's cool. So we talked about this a little bit earlier when we were talking about not working on Sundays, but you know, you're a Christian. What does it mean to be a distinctly Christian realtor? How does that affect the way that you do your work?
Well, I think I deal with moving is an emotional thing. You know, it is a very emotional time in your life. You don't know, and especially for women. I mean, men. But for a woman, you know, we make our nest. We want to know
Yeah.
where our children are going to sleep.
Yeah.
We want to know where we're going to get to, what pillows are we going to get to fluff. We want to think about the paint and the colors. And I know whenever I'm selling a house, if I can, I'm telling my secrets, but if I can get somebody to say, oh, that's where I want my Christmas tree right there. If they can picture where they're going to have their Christmas tree in this house, we've sold it.
It's done.
It's done. I mean,
Yeah.
if you can picture your life and your celebrations and your things, because that's how women think. Now, guys, it might be a little different, but I'm not a guy, so I can't really speak to that. But I think, when you're dealing with those kind of emotions, guys too. I mean, for men, I think it's more. There's a pride factor. So whenever you're negotiating a deal and say they don't want to give any concessions,
They want to win.
they want to win. So you got to think about that and coaching people through that in a way that is gracious and not letting the hysterics or the worry or the fear or the pride take over the situation. And also, the integrity of knowing your business. You've got to study the market. You've got to, know your numbers. You've got to know the neighborhood. You need to keep track of things and responsibilities and those kinds of things. So there's integrity there. But, just handling these trials, because it's a legitimate trial,
Right.
like a Christian, and helping them go through it, whether they're a Christian or not,
Right.
whatever, wherever they're at. I think it helps. I think it helps to speak truth into those situations.
Yeah.
You're dealing with, financing and worry and
Is it going to close?
will it
Are we
close?
going to make it?
And sometimes it doesn't, or
Right.
you find out things, and so
That was one of the things. I remember we bought a house. I don't remember how long.
y'all
ago
had
it
a
was.
difficult situation. I remember that.
It was like
very
it was like 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
Before we knew. And any given moment,
Yeah.
they could have just said, "Nope, it's not going to work."
Oh, yeah.
And then everything would have been over, and that would have been
and you would have
devastating.
invested money and time and
Right.
oh, Rachel, bless her. Bless
But we
her.
made it.
Yeah.
Whenever the markets flipped and everything became worth so much more than it actually was, we found out that we could have made like $100,000 if we'd have sold the house. And so I floated the idea to my wife. I was like, "Hey, honey, we could sell the house and make a ton of money. You want to
Yeah.
do it?" And she was like, "Absolutely not."
Right. Yeah.
She was done,
I know.
man. We're going to die in that house.
Well, it's beautiful. You've made a great place of it.
Well, yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Where's the Christmas tree?
Right by the front window,
See?
the great big window in the
I'm
front.
right. Works every time.
What advice would you give to somebody who's getting ready to start looking for houses seriously? What would you tell them to start doing? Start thinking about?
Talk to a lender.
Talk to a lender before a realtor?
Well, can you go shopping if you don't know how much you can afford? Can you really? Really, you've got to be, anything that you look at, you've got to know what you're going to pay or how you're going to pay it. You've got to know the hidden surprises. A lender will uncover all of those things and help you. If you're not ready, they will put you on a trajectory where you can be. Sometimes you may have things you need to pay off. Sometimes you may find out you have a surprise bill that is on your credit report that you didn't even know about.
That happened
you
to
thought
us.
You were in a great place.
Yeah.
But sometimes you might find out that you can afford way more than you thought, and
Right.
the payment's really not that bad, and you would be, but to a lot of people, what in general happens is people start looking in a price bracket that they can't really afford, so they have their hopes up, set really high, and then when we have to really shop with what their actual budget is, everything looks terrible. So it's best to go in knowing where you should start. And
Right.
and honestly, I don't go showing houses unless you have a pre-approval letter. So if you're thinking about buying a house, then reach out to me, and I will hook you up with a lender.
That's
I
awesome.
work with a few great ones.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
What would be, so get a lender, find a real estate person. Any other advice for somebody who might be shopping?
With lenders on that point too, different lenders have different programs and different fees and different rates. So it's good to talk to more than one.
Oh, okay. Okay. What if somebody is looking to do like investment properties?
Those are going to be usually, well, it depends on what kind of investment. Like, are you talking about rental or flips or, that kind of a thing? But
Yeah.
a lot of times those situations will need to be cash if they're like really bad off, or conventional loans. Usually your local banks are going to be where you go to for those kinds of situations. Some of the other brokers or realtor lenders have like lowest point limits that they'll even borrow for, that kind of thing. So different lenders for different situations.
Okay. Let's talk about the market right now. Is it a good time to buy? Should people be waiting? What do you think?
So, interest rates, they're pretty stable. So they're stabilizing. They're in the sixes.
Okay.
We haven't seen anything crazy. Like, I know when they first started raising rates, they went up to around the 8s.
Yeah,
for a minute.
I heard about that.
But it's gone down, so it's stabled a little bit. And the inventory is still really low. So when you're in a price bracket,
so it's still a seller's market.
well, it is, and depending on which price bracket you're in. So if you're in a higher end price bracket, it may not be as good a market for you. But especially in the, I would say, 250 or less, definitely a seller's market. But also rates are still stable enough that for buyers wanting to get in, they're not crazy, and it's still better than renting. So it's a good market for both.
Okay.
It is good to sell at this point too, because the values are high. People are still getting a lot of return. There's a lot of equity because of past years. The prices have gone up, so most sellers have a lot of equity in their home. So there's a lot of room for them to breathe and be able to know that they're going to be able to sell for a good price, and probably sell within a reasonable time frame.
Yeah.
And buyers are having reasonable rates. Historically, even though it's in the 6s or early 7s, historically that's still low. If you look at the history from the first time in the 30s or the 40s when they were actually charting it, it is historically a great rate still.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
It's not 2.5 that was manufactured. We're not going to see that again in a long time, but it's still good rates.
I locked my refi in at one of those.
Yeah, which is why inventory's low. People are holding on to their house. They don't need to. We don't have a lot of inventory because people are content. They don't have a high interest rate, and the idea of getting a new rate is scary.
They don't want to sell.
No.
They want to hang out.
So people selling need to sell, which is good for buyers, or they have a motivation more than their interest rate that is probably gold to get them out.
What about like builders? Is now a time to build a house, or is it more time to buy a house, or do you think it's kind of even keel there too?
We're seeing a lot of the big box builders like DSLD, D.R. Horton. They're coming in. The price of building materials has gone down because like the COVID pricing was crazy. Yeah. There are still things that they have to order pretty fast, like windows. Windows take a long time to come in still.
Oh, okay.
Some things like that, but. Builders are, there's still motivation to build because of the low inventory, especially depending on which price bracket you're in. So again, with that. So the higher end of builders are being a little more conservative, I think, with how much they're putting out there. Yeah. But the mid-range to low range, there's still a great market for that.
Okay. Awesome. Well, so people are listening right now and they want to buy a house. Where do they go to find you, Emily?
I'm on Facebook at Emily Nealy Realtor, and on Instagram at Emily Nealy Realtor. And if you go to those places, you can find my contact information. You can also text me. My number is 337-579-3418, and you can shoot me a text and tell me you're interested in buying a house, and I'll talk to you some more about it.
Awesome. Well, Emily, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And guys, thank y'all so much for listening to another podcast from Page 50. We'll be doing these regularly moving forward, and hopefully you'll find them helpful and encouraging. Appreciate you guys. Thank y'all for listening, and we'll see you next time.